Good afternoon, David.
Jack, good afternoon to you. Always wonderful to see you.
Honored to be here.
You're looking fresh. You told me it's extremely cold today.
It is, to the degree that when I left my home in Northport Village and looked down at the harbor, which is seawater, it's frozen solid. I wouldn't
Oh, I like that. I like that.
I wouldn't advise it, but I think one could walk on it.
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yes, that always intrigued me, the idea of walking on ice
Hmm.
and possibly, falling in. It's
Yes.
rather dangerous.
In fact, I recalled last night a tale of having long ago a small mixed breed dog before I had a chain of Rottweilers that were our family dogs. And it was late of a midnight that I took her for a walk down in the village. And because it was snowy and there was no one there, I could let her off the leash and let her run around. But I didn't think that she would not distinguish the land from the frozen water covered with snow that must have looked like land to her. And for a moment, I had to just hold my breath as she just ran off into the night onto the ice. But she returned. But I realized there was no rescue I could perform.
Oh, yes. That could have been scary.
Yes, it was. It was a moment where you just have to hold your breath and let fate take a hand.
I was born in Cleveland, which is on one of the Great Lakes.
Mm-hmm.
And anything that says great, I like.
Yes.
And a side issue, speaking of my first piano teacher when I was a child, I remember that she never played for me, and I wanted so much for someone to play for me.
Mm-hmm.
But those first piano teachers are not necessarily fantastic players, so you had
Mm-hmm.
the same experience, right?
Right. I maybe would never have had the chance to know if she could play. My first
Oh, yes.
teacher was named Marie Babiak of Seaford, and she charged $2. And she had very arthritic hands, and there was an old grandfather clock always clicking in the distance. And I was young enough, and perhaps there, half persuaded by my mother, to be half watching the clock as a little boy, as much as now realizing that I should have savored every second of it. And her hands were such that I don't think she could do anything on the keyboard except guide my little fingers to where they should be.
And that was when you were 8 years
I
old.
started when I was 8.
My goodness, that's an interesting story. What do you mean by the clock? You were watching the clock.
Meaning, I suppose there are the little boys who maybe feel the spark, the lure, the seduction of the piano right away. I didn't. I was drawn to it or taken to it as a trade. My mother said if I would take the piano lessons, I could also have the horseback riding lessons that I had
Whoa.
asked for. But once I took the piano lessons, I never asked for the horseback riding lessons. But I just mean that some residual aspect of the little boy who also was pining to go run back with his friends out and to play in the woods was watching the clock. So I have a memory of looking beyond the length of the piano to the clock. But I also remember her allowing one to bring pictures that one had drawn, and they were all pinned to the wall to the left on the bass side, so that I remembered when I visited her later when I was 20, the very same pictures that I had drawn were amongst the pictures
No.
that were still there. Yes.
Oh, this is very interesting.
Yeah. And
Almost eerie in a certain way.
yes, and she was bedridden by that time, but so I played for her, and she was in another room.
So you got her when she was fairly old.
I think so. She had to have been at least in
Mhm.
her 80s when I
Mhm.
first started, and by the time I don't know what years she had advanced to when I made that last visit.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, that's very interesting. The memories of the young
Mm-hmm.
in relationship to their endeavors,
Mm-hmm.
especially artistic ones. I don't think that children have too many things of interest to tell you if their mothers just have them as soccer or whatever, soccer mothers,
Yes,
picking
yes.
them up, and
Yeah.
they they do this, they do that. I don't know. The kids seem so busy. I never had anything that was busy.
You mean
I had all. It seemed to me I had all the time in the world. I didn't go to, as we said last week, I guess, pre what do you call it, pre schooling.
You mean like the Juilliard pre-college?
No, I mean there
Oh.
was no such thing for
Oh,
me as a
preschool. Yes. Oh,
preschool.
yes. Mm-hmm.
I didn't go till I was 5, and
Mm-hmm.
as I told you, I cried like mad. I couldn't stand it,
Mm-hmm.
and I had a bad status in my mind because I didn't like the kids in the morning, and then I thought maybe if I could get into the at least because they weren't going to let me out of it, if they could, I could be in the afternoon one. I would
Yes.
have, I'd have better people
Mm-hmm.
because I didn't like the people that were with me in kindergarten. So
It's that lore always prevailed in elementary school when autumn would come, that there was sometimes a class that had the superior kids or the better class to be in. I don't know if that was just all myth.
it was probably because I didn't see any pretty girls in the
In the morning kindergarten.
class.
I see.
You know, I didn't think of it exactly that way.
Mm-hmm.
I ran home after the words. I screamed and cried, "Mother, I
Mm-hmm.
can't stand this."
Mm-hmm.
And I really think that it was not the quality of the children, but the fact that I didn't see any pretty girls.
I understand that.
Pretty girls are everything to a 5-year-old. Everything.
In fact, I often feel that if you really want to maybe know a woman or know really how a woman is interpreted, one should ask a little boy. Because to a degree they can see beauty, but they are not also being driven by the adolescent blood on fire. So they can really judge a woman's character without at the same time being seduced by the prospect of the sexual, even though there's that latent aspect. So I think I even wrote that as a line myself in one of my own things, that if you really want to know a woman, ask a little boy.
It's very interesting. What novel is that?
It's a novel that I never published called The Native State.
Wow.
It was about
Please,
childhood.
please look for Jack's novels and essay selections because I mean they're really unique. They're everyone
thank you.
that reads them are they're tough reading in the sense that they're serious and they're very your style is not the superficial magazine style of our day. I can't bear those articles. But getting back to the idea of great.
David, in fact, if I may, because that's exactly where I wanted to go, your interview with Rosalind Turek in Reflections from the Keyboard, you ask at the end of that interview, you simply, because you have been giving a lot of time to Bach in the interview, you suddenly take a pause. Even though I can't see what happened, I only know the interview from print, and yet I always imagine you leaning back and saying to her, now that you've covered the details of particular works, do you think he was a great man? And then I remember her reply is, it depends on what you think to be a great man. And then she says something to the effect that he had at best a bourgeois kind of education and a limited sphere of travel. But I don't feel she ever answered the question, and I would much rather hear the answer from you, because that's a really wonderful thing to qualify. What is a great man?
What is a great man is a topic so vast
Yes.
and often so individualized.
Mm-hmm.
Is Benjamin Franklin really as great as we all think he is in the mythology of the founding fathers, things like that?
Mm-hmm.
But yes, I think that Bach was a great man for various reasons. He took responsibility for his position as Kapellmeister there very seriously. He didn't really want a job like that. It was in a city that was much too expensive for him, Leipzig. He didn't come in first by any means in the competition to get the job. And when he got the job, he found out he had to work very hard, not only teaching all of the chorus, and later on, of course, he had these cantatas every week.
Mm-hmm.
But he had all of these children too. Now, yes, he did not take the girls as seriously as the boys.
His daughters.
Yes, his
Mhm.
daughters,
Mhm.
but he was very happy that they had clear, fine voices,
Mhm.
and he taught all of them. Now, I think he was a great man. If I were a young boy, to hear my father, let's say at night, play intimately the fugues from the Well-Tempered Clavier or any other of his keyboard pieces on instrument so beautiful and intimate as the clavichord,
Mm-hmm.
which he had, and that is where Philip Emanuel loved the clavichord above the harpsichord or the later emerging pianoforte.
In other words, one of his sons.
Yes,
Mm-hmm.
for Carl Philip Emanuel,
Mm-hmm.
what became much more famous in his lifetime than Bach himself as a composer. Bach's great fame was as an instrumentalist, meaning as an organist.
Mm-hmm.
Probably one of the greatest organists of all time,
Mm-hmm.
maybe the greatest, because his organ music remains incredibly difficult to
Mm-hmm.
play. So he also impressed everyone deeply with it. And his son, who became the composer, court composer, one of the three or four court composers, to the greatest of all benevolent despots of the day, Frederick the Great,
Mm-hmm.
who brought Voltaire to the court. And Voltaire heard Philip Emanuel, and he even heard the early pianofortes that Silbermann sent to the palace, because Frederick the Great was one of the great patrons. Great. I love that word, great.
Yes.
You have to do something great. What he did was he bought 14, probably, we don't know for sure, 14 pianos to stock his two great palaces.
Mm-hmm.
In Potsdam and in Berlin. And
Do we know what Voltaire said about
yes,
hearing?
we do. He said, the harpsichord will never overthrow this ironmonger's instrument.
In reaction to hearing a performance on the piano?
Yes.
Do we know what he said about Carl Philip Emanuel's work?
No, we don't.
Oh,
we
okay.
don't. We know what the first great historian of music, Dr. Burney. We don't know his first name is Dr. Burney. He probably had an academic doctorate from some university like Oxford or Cambridge, and he became very famous not only by writing about the musicians of his time. It's still very readable.
Mm-hmm.
He said that to hear Philip Emanuel in a slow movement, getting the bebong, the feeling of vibrato that you can get if you know how to play the clavichord well.
Mm-hmm.
And he said it brought tears to the eyes of everyone, all the time.
Mm. And Burney, if I'm not mistaken, is the father of Fanny Burney?
He is absolutely the father of Fanny Burney,
Mm-hmm.
who actually adored him.
Adored her
Yes,
father.
the father, yes.
And what is it? It's an epistolary novel. I think it's called Evelina.
Evelina was her novel, and I've read a chapter or two.
I knew you would have been into it. Okay, I had
Amazing.
all right.
It's amazing.
Yes.
Well,
okay,
we
yes.
are amazing, of course.
Yes.
God.
Uh-huh. It's an epistolary novel, I think.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
Probably she was, imitating the Richardson.
Yes, probably Samuel Richardson.
And it was very, very famous, and
Mhm.
the introduction to the edition I have, makes her into a very interesting woman.
Mhm.
Very interesting woman.
How do we know that she favored her father so much? Did you read something?
Because there's other writings,
Oh.
maybe even from that introduction. But I've read a little bit about her here and there,
Okay.
and actually have a copy of the Evelina of the novel.
Okay.
So, these were great times, and you're talking about publishing. I mean, there was a non-stop publication of treatises,
Mm-hmm.
flute treatises by Quantz, all published in Hamburg.
Mm.
And it was in Hamburg that Silbermann, Bach's great friend,
Mm-hmm.
and the true inventor of the piano in the sense of, any dissemination, he never knew how to make a piano.
Now, do you mean that he was the true inventor insofar that he took the Cristofori or Cristofori
Yes,
things to the apotheosis that Cristofori couldn't realize?
No, yes, Cristofori didn't know anything, or Cristofori did not know anything about where it would move. He made about 32 extant pianos. One may have gone literally to the courts where, in Madrid, where Scarlatti was, because a fan of the early pianos of Cristofori was Farinelli, the greatest celebrity in the world, with his castrato voice.
Mm-hmm.
So they castrated the guy, but he had quite a life. Well, he was at the courts in Madrid for 14 years, playing and singing the same, accompanying himself on the new piano.
Mm-hmm.
So Scarlatti probably heard, because he was close to Farinelli, and probably heard the early pianofortes, but they had no interest in it, because he loved the big, gravelly sound and so forth of the harpsichord. He was probably the greatest harpsichordist that ever lived. All we have to do is look at the variety of figuration in the 550 sonatas. So every day something was happening, and it happens to be that Silbermann, who was a important, I won't say great now, but the fact is there's many Baroque organs of his still in use in German churches. That's how Bach made some extra money. Silbermann would take him to play on it, and Bach, being an expert on the organ, would tell him, no, this is not this, so forth, and he would help him, give a better product, and he'd get a commission. Now, Silbermann was in Hamburg, and he in 1719, 18, he was always interested in making a instrument of inflection, a piano.
Okay.
And he had no idea. There were no faxes or emails
Well,
or
that's
anything.
what I want to ask you. In the film The Golden Age of the Piano, I think you even characterized the moment as somewhat miraculous or completely by chance that he comes across the Cristofori diagrams. Do we know the circumstances of the degree of chance? How did he find those?
What a story. I
Yes.
mean, we wouldn't have the piano. Remember, 100 years, 70 years later, Beethoven thought it was a German invention and decided to call his late music, Hammerklaviers.
Yes.
Hammer pianos.
Right.
So,
And as you say, I think it's in the art of the piano. I always thought it too, and I felt relieved when you said it. As an English speaker, when I look at that, it also seems to have a poetic overtone of something very, almost caustic or grim or very earnest. Hammer clavier.
it is, and look at that piece.
Oh yes.
God, it's certainly outside of the realm of humanity.
Right. Am I right though, David, that the other late sonatas also carried that title and that they just faded away?
Yeah, it
the
faded
Hammer
away.
clavier?
Yes, yeah.
Okay.
101 carried it, and it may well be 109, 10, and 11, but
Okay.
I don't think so. I think only 101 and 106.
Okay.
The Hammerklavier and the previous one in A major, which is one of the greatest sonatas of all. The A major, Opus 101 of Beethoven. I mean, that's where he's really starting to get his contrapuntal roots going in. And by 106, he would be writing the most complex fugue ever written, with more devices used than Bach had ever even dreamed of in a fugue. So, Gottfried Silbermann, worked, and he was very upset. He couldn't get the thing to work, no matter what. It wouldn't happen.
So he was already, like, I think the term in nature is convergent evolution, where two animals that are separated geographically by selective pressure result with the same solution to a similar pressure. So before he found the Cristofori diagrams, he was already trying to make a mechanism that had dynamics?
Absolutely.
That I didn't know.
He failed for years.
All right. Do we know what some of his mechanical... That would be wonderful to see. What was he trying to do to make the action have relative attack?
I don't know.
I'm sorry, but I'd like to hear
I wish I do. That's interesting too, of course. The Metropolitan Museum has one of the extant Cristofori pianos.
I should see that.
It's a beauty.
Okay.
Beautiful. There's, I think, 2 in the world, or maybe 3. I'm not sure. One in Cologne, I think, and one in New York.
Okay.
It's a wonderful piano. Horzhowski actually played the Giustini sonatas in a recording many years ago on Vanguard.
Okay.
I don't know if they're transferred to CD. They should be, because these were the first actual piano pieces to ever have. Definitely, he knew Cristofori, and there's crescendos, there's diminuendos, there's dolce, there's
Mhm.
things that wouldn't be in harpsichord music.
Hmm. And would that instrument already have the damper action used by the knee, where one uses?
Yes,
Okay.
there was. I
Mhm.
think there is in that. I don't. He doesn't make any pedal markings though,
Okay. Hmm.
so we have Silbermann in Hamburg for something. Probably you commissioned to look at a church
Okay.
to and somewhere there he finds. Remember, I said everything that could have been published in Hamburg
Hmm.
was published. Be it novels, be
Yes.
it treatises, be it Quantz's famous flute, everything. Remember, Frederick the Great probably commissioned Quantz, who was his teacher,
Hmm.
his flute teacher. Think of it.
Hmm.
And Frederick the Great was, if he was one of the certainly generals who murdered a lot of people
Hmm.
in for his Prussian Empire, he was one of the great patrons of all time, and he probably commissioned Quantz for this method because he was an extremely fine flutist who every week, think of it,
Mm.
would come out on stage and play a flute concerto of his own composition.
It's remarkable.
Remarkable.
David, have you spent any time with Thomas Carlyle's Frederick the Great?
No, I've read little bits of Carlyle's
Okay.
Frederick the Great, which is extraordinary. The
All right,
little
'cause
bits I've read.
That's one of those books that I have, and yet it waits, and so you think, in a sense, it certainly is worth one's time.
I was stunned that it was so modern in a way.
Yes, Carlyle is.
Isn't that
Very
interesting?
modern,
Yeah,
yes.
very interesting. Yes, I thought to myself, I have to put this in the mind to
Okay.
read more of Carlyle.
Hmm.
So here he is, Silbermann, in town, so to speak,
Hmm.
in that town where Brahms was born in 1833. So this is like 105 years earlier, and 10 years, whatever. And into his hands comes a treatise with all of the sketches of Christofori's in front of him, telling him exactly how to make the Cristofori piano, which is exactly the same piano as we have today, except for the certain pedaling systems.
Yes.
And everything about the Cristofori was a revolutionary instrument. It's nothing to do with the harpsichord or clavichord.
Right. It does. And you're right. It doesn't trope onto the harpsichord mechanism. It breaks away from it.
Totally breaks away.
Yes.
A detachment of the harpsichord at all times. So Couperin, the greatest of all harpsichord composers, he begged to have if only I had inflection.
Yes.
Couldn't do it,
Hmm.
But yet we can't translate his music to as we can Scarlatti to the piano because it doesn't sound well. He needed so much ornamentation for everything, even though he's so poignant and exquisite in a way. So he sees this and he can't believe it. He goes back and he reads it thoroughly, of course, and it's an article that had been published maybe in 1714-15 by a aristocrat of Florence by the name of Scipione, who did an article in a journal
About the Cristofori project.
and copying out, as everyone knew how to draw,
Yes.
copying out the mechanism drawings. Think of it. He almost collapsed. He got himself back. He kept it secret. He didn't, he wasn't going to tell Bach anything about it, and didn't until he was done. And he was very unhappy that when he got it done, Bach didn't like it.
And yet, David, I always think of this story all the time when I hear people defer doing work because they already calculate the odds against their work ever being discovered. And I think of that story, and then though it's borrowed in a very loose way, There's a place outside of Hartford, Connecticut. When I had cause to drive back and forth to Boston, I would often stop in this place because I don't think most people think of New England in reference to dinosaur remains. But there is a small domed area that exposes a place where construction had revealed, due to the creditable actions of a guy using a bulldozer saying, I think there's something here, trackways in the ground from when parts of Connecticut were on another part of the globe due to tectonic movement. But I would often stop there and look at that to remind myself to never defer work, because even something as brutish as a dinosaur, which is thoughtless, and certainly no Christophori, and no artist, no one with a gift, but left its footprints, and untold millions of years go by, and it could not remain hidden.
Amazing. Just amazing.
And so that's in a way what happened to Christophori's diagrams. They were, in a sense, covered by the mud of what we would think would be obscurity. But oftentimes we always need that dedicated person who is our ally, maybe not in proximity or time, but an ally notwithstanding, and that person will come.
Well, it sure came.
Yes.
And we now have a piano in every motion picture,
Yes.
everywhere. There's not a movie that's not non-military. Even them could have them. A piano is everywhere in the Western psyche.
Mm-hmm.
It permeates it. I don't understand how that happened, but it happened from its evolution, from its moment of luck,
Mm-hmm.
where the Scipione. Now here comes the other thing. It's not read by Silbermann. Nobody knew Italian in Germany then.
Okay.
You see.
Oh, so I mean he wasn't able to read the text?
No, he read it in the translation.
Well, that's
That's
even-
and
yes.
that city of Hamburg took everything and was a rich city,
Mm-hmm.
and it had someone translate the Scipione, because these were cultivated people, remember, and
Mm-hmm.
someone must have who translated it said this is going to make some money or something, because someone's going to want it. Well, the person that wanted it is the German master of instruments who really made many harpsichords, hundreds of organs, and the piano is his. The world doesn't even know about Cristofori for so long.
Yes.
He dies unknown, except for the little circle in Tuscany where he
Mhm.
lived.
Mm-hmm.
And he was the instrument caretaker of one of the Medicis
Mm-hmm.
in Florence.
Okay.
So he knew a lot of things about instruments, and he had been obsessed, just as Marius in Paris was obsessed with trying to get an instrument of inflection. This had been going on literally since the Elizabethan age,
Mm-hmm.
to try to get an instrument that would be emotional, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. And again,
That's
I
what
guess only the clavichord at least had a glancing blow
A
at it.
glancing blow only,
Yes,
and you had to be very good at the bebung, and how you,
Mhm.
like an oyster, you had to find that pearl.
Okay.
But the clavichord is just, today in our deaf society,
Mhm.
you couldn't hear it in a reasonable room,
So now, David, this leads to this idea, because you already talked about how then, lo and behold, a century goes by and the piano proliferates to the point that we find it in frontier settings being hauled on,
Yep, everywhere.
on a Conestoga wagon across rivers
Everywhere.
in hostile Indian country. You name it, it's there.
It's
So
the greatest single cultural symbol of high culture the world has ever known. The artifact way above the violin. And by the way, Stradivarius was a friend of Cristofori. You see, they all knew each other.
Yes.
That would have any. Farinelli had come to the studio. He had probably gotten one of those early pianos to the Madrid court.
So this leads to this question for David Duval. And I've been the one to benefit from many conversations where you've instructed me, at least in the plastic arts, about the dangers of commodification, especially in this age in which I think you were the first person that made me aware of the obscene price that originals can soar to because prints can be made, and that means that the because that's only the exclusive domain of the plastic arts where there is an original. Now, this morning, before coming to you, I turned on the television briefly, and there was an ad, and this goes to the idea of the commodification of music, and my ears suddenly heard a bit of Schumann's Scenes of Childhood. And, of course, I wanted to know what was the source. And it was an ad for senior care living. So, my
How
question...
ironic, a scene from childhood.
Yes. As if, I'm not sure what the implication was. I'm sure it was just a careless choice, or it could have been timing. But here's the question now that I would love for you to expand upon. In this brutish society, where maybe a young person has no chance to hear Schumann, or they do, but they don't know they do, does commodification, perhaps as base as it is, perhaps serve a purpose of maybe capturing the ear of someone, though it's being used for perverse purposes of selling an object?
Absolutely.
So it has a purpose?
Of course.
Okay.
Of course, it cannot possibly not have some effect on someone somewhere, if not more, depending upon how commercial the advertisement is, or the Lone Ranger. I mean, my God,
Oh, right.
to this day, I see myself in bed thrilling not to the Lone Ranger as much as to the William Tell Overture.
Yes. And I suppose in that case, what's amazing about the William Tell Overture was some kind of innate universality that the music has, that it would serve the Italian setting of the opera, but at the same time be suitable in the Trans-Pecos west of Texas.
Absolutely.
It's amazing. All right, so let's take this further. I remember there was an airline ad for a long time that absolutely beat the Rhapsody in Blue to death.
Mm-hmm.
Now, there I felt there was a piece that already had established itself. Do you think that the airline ad pulled it down?
Pulled the work down?
Well, in a sense, in terms of the fact that it became linked in people's minds to a concrete image that
Yes.
should not have been yoked to it.
Yes, it hurts the work
Okay.
of pure art, meaning there is no description that Gershwin wanted,
Right.
although he said he was inspired in the last part by the train tracks going to
From New York to Boston.
yeah, but means nothing. We
Yeah.
don't. Oh yeah, we hear the wheels going or something. In the second Rhapsody, his first title for that was Rhapsody in Rivets.
Yes.
Pounding on
Yes.
it, and that would be okay. But no, they've hurt the Gershwin artistically, and it's not easy to play it with true style. The idiom of blues jazz early, melded into Tchaikovsky and Liszt pianism.
Mm-hmm.
It's not easy to play well.
Mm.
But that great tune, of course, came somewhere with Gershwin by hearing Tchaikovsky's tunes and so forth, the unraveling. I mean, it could be Rachmaninoff concerto. Rachmaninoff was in the audience.
He was in the audience
at Aeolian Hall in
Now,
24.
David, maybe we mention it. I couldn't help but notice out of the corner of my eye a recording of it. That
Yes.
This is rather new, isn't it? Of the
Yes.
complete piano and orchestra works of.
Yes, this is an extraordinary recording by Cecile Lacaud, great Philippine pianist, born pianist, lives in New York, very close friend of mine. And she was going to do with the Danish Orchestra Philharmonic the Rhapsody in Blue, the Concerto in F, and the all the orchestral
That's the
piano.
second Rhapsody on there, and the I Got Rhythm variations.
Yeah, and I said to her, "You've got to do the Rhapsody in Rivets." She had never heard it. Nobody has ever heard it, basically, except Oscar Levant.
Right.
And
am I right? Part of it was written as a conception for a segment in a film score, or am I wrong about that?
No, it could have been. It could have been because
Okay.
he, of course, was linked to that
Mhm.
kind of thing. But Gershwin took this very seriously, and naturally, it had not a chance to ever rival in popularity the Rhapsody in Blue, which is, my goodness, I hate to say it, but the only classical piece
Yeah.
of American music of the 20th century that has survived.
David, I'm sure you've looked at the first page of the second Rhapsody, the Rhapsody in Rivets, and
Yes.
noticed something in notation that a pianist almost never sees, though the modern Steinway has it.
In what?
In the second Rhapsody.
On the second Rhapsody? I don't know that well.
Well, remember it begins with that dun 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 dun
Yes.
dun 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 dum, and then there's that C,
Oh.
and then he notates the use of the sostenuto pedal, the middle pedal.
So you looked at that piece once.
Oh yes. Hmm.
Ah,
Yeah.
how interesting. Yeah, because it is interesting.
I have a fondness for my copy of the score because I had left it on the rack when I was in high school, and I came back, and my sister, who was an infant, apparently had climbed on the bench and colored with crayons on the cover. Then I was appalled. Now I cherish it because there's a mark of my little baby sister
Oh.
having colored all over the second Rhapsody.
Oh, nice. So I'm
Yeah.
gonna plug this because
Yes.
this is really one of the great pianists of the world,
Mhm.
Cecile Lacoste, and she's playing as soloist with the Denmark Philharmonic, and it was me who insisted on her looking at the Rhapsody in Rivets,
Yes.
Rhapsody in Blue,
Hmm.
because there was enough time to fit it in.
Yes.
And you remember Gershwin's father. Even in the movie, it makes
Yes.
he was always very impressed with a longer and more important work that would have a bigger timing because the songs were not long enough for
That's
him.
right. They even show in the film
Yeah.
with Alda. I can't remember the father. Is it Robert Alda who
Yes,
plays?
I think
yes.
so.
And they always show the father timing the piece and say a very important piece.
Very important piece because
15
the
minutes
Rhapsody in
long.
Blue.
Yes.
Let's
Mhm.
see, yeah. Oh, she goes to 18. She has. Oh my goodness.
So I don't think she takes the cuts that a lot of people do.
Yeah, and the second Rhapsody though is important. It's 15
It's
minutes,
a
so the
great
father
piece.
would have. Yeah, it
Yeah.
is. It is. So you have a chance to hear all, and I can tell you that on my radio show recently. That's why I have it on. I'm putting the variations on "I Got Rhythm"
Great
for
piece
piano
as
and
well.
orchestra that she plays magnificently. So it's a Danacord recording. And I hope that you buy it because it's one of the rare places you can get every work of piano and orchestra that Gershwin produced.
Right, on one disc.
On one disc. It's
Mhm.
amazing what they could put
Mhm.
on now, huh?
Mm-hmm.
So Cecile Lacoste got a wonderful plug, I think.
I
And
think so. Well deserved.
yes, I know she just recorded Scott Joplin's
Mhm.
ragtime pieces, which the moment I heard ragtime, I knew I loved it. It was just great. The
Mm.
problem is nobody knows how to play it. She knows how, and she's played them for me. And let me
Mhm.
tell you,
Mhm.
it's incredible the lack of talent that most pianists have. They cannot figure out how to really play popular music in this, and it was composed as art music. These
Yes.
rags, and they are art music. They're tremendous addition to the piano literature. 50 of them composed in that magical decade of where the piano literature was being written in every country in the world. And these Joplin were from 1899 to 1910. Extraordinary.
Yeah, that kind of period right before or right after the closing of the frontier
Mhm.
and the beginning of the proliferation of true, what would be the word, jet age modernity, where it's still amber lighted and still gas lighted and
Oh, absolutely.
it's
And remember,
amazing.
he was a whorehouse pianist.
So that's
you
what I was
know.
going to say.
And
So
those places in Sedalia and in what they call the Tenderloin district of America, where there were in all of those states from Texarkana where he
Yes.
was born, the most extraordinary brothels in magnificent homes.
yes, and my understanding of Old West lore,
Mhm.
oftentimes in terms of brothels, was that the pianist, who often went by the euphemism professor,
Yes.
was the pimp. And yet, because it had at the same time an affectation of some kind of old world elegance in terms of a kind of tawdry plushness that we imagine in the late 19th century crimson colors of the rooms where the women would wait or the madam would preside.
Mhm.
That to a degree the parlor, so to speak, that stood an analogy to Chopin's parlor for a Joplin, meaning was that the place where the art music of the rag was thought to be the place that was best to present it? Or do you think Joplin really had it in his mind to foresee it being played on platforms before general audiences.
Yes, he understood once he knew how to notate the syncopation.
Yes.
There were many ragtime pianists doing the circuit, and they were real virtuosos, but they didn't necessarily even know how to read music.
Mm-hmm.
And it was all from the ear, and they composed many things, and sometimes it would be transcribed. But Joplin becomes the king of ragtime because he's able to notate, let's say, the wonderful Maple Leaf Rag, which became the
Mm-hmm.
biggest sensation in the world in America, 1899, and it neared 1 million copies.
Mm.
So you see already the commercial industry of music was starting to churn.
Yes.
Even a salon piece by the Pittsburgh composer Ethelbert Nevin, Narcissus, actually sold 1 million copies. And it was this ragtime, though, Maple Leaf, that made him king of ragtime.
Mm.
And these people, they were all called Professor. It's quite
Yes.
wonderful. All of the
Yes.
girls called Scott Joplin Professor. And it's an extraordinary amount of these pianists that were amazing keyboard virtuosos, from the ragtime to the stride piano and so
Mhm.
forth. Jazz would wipe it out totally, along with World War One, where there was the last rag was 1917, the actual death year of Joplin, and there were very few rags because he was trying to write a ragtime opera, Trementia, of which is great, very tragic. But he dies insane in the third stage of syphilis,
Wow.
as many of these ragtime pianists certainly couldn't resist. They were an absolute god there, playing that music, and they would be during all of the coition. They would be hearing this
Yes.
ragtime music downstairs. It could be upstairs, and this is very, very sexy music,
Mhm.
and so everyone plays it. It's like
Yeah.
and it was a mistake because every time a composer interferes with the interpreter, it's going to be bad news for the interpreter.
How do you mean?
It's very important, in
Mhm.
my opinion, as a piano teacher, so to speak. And he made a terrible mistake as he became more gentrified, and moved to New York and so forth, and gave up the rag for, hoping that he would have fame in the ragtime idiom through the work of Trementia. But he would write on the manuscripts of his ragtimes, do not play ragtime fast, too fast,
Mm-hmm.
too fast. Well, that stopped. It made everyone say, oh my God, he wants just the notes played, and that was a big thing at that moment in time, with Stravinsky talking about it, and, pianists were taking great leeways. Well, by the time it was really started to the bicentennial of America, you had a Joplin revival.
Yeah.
And there were pianists playing these pieces, and all of them were absolutely outside the realm of being good.
Because in part they were too
Because
slow.
they were too slow, too boring.
But it's funny.
They had no idea what
Yeah.
kind of music. This is African American music of such orgiastic qualities, even though it's bound to an A, B, B, C, C, D, D.
But that leads me to several questions that I need to hear the Duvalian answer to. Well, and before I ask them, let me ask this. That must have been a very, very impressive remark that he made, because how does one say the novelist's name? Is it Dr. Rao? Dr. Rowe? E.L. Dr. Rowe?
Oh yeah,
Who wrote
yes,
Ragtime?
yes, of course, Ragtime, the novel Ragtime.
Right. That is the epigram to the book, is that remark about one must not play ragtime.
You're kidding.
No.
It's destroyed the possibility of excellent ragtime playing.
Okay, so then here's my other question. And you were talking about how...
So you understand how important
Yes.
this is. Yes.
I mean, it preoccupied even
Yeah.
the mind of a novelist to
Never
say...
play ragtime too fast.
Fast.
And he even had exercises in how to make the syncopation, work.
Now, do you think part of the remarkable notion of the hope of what ragtime represented is that before jazz splintered off and perhaps we could imagine engendered more of a separation between the races in terms of the origins of style, that ragtime, because you just mentioned it, in terms of its formal structures, do you agree to a degree that its first cousin is the march?
Oh, it is the march.
Yes.
And listen to many of the. There's about. I know that Lecaud did about 20 of these on the record, and with this semi crazy type of rondo form.
Yeah.
He has Sousa marches all over the
That's
place.
what I was thinking.
Sousa learned his trade.
The closest, yes, cousin to Joplin is John Philip Sousa.
And
It's
Sousa,
all over the place.
Sousa's a great master.
Yes.
Of this March King, I love him so
Yes.
dearly. He's a wonder.
It's the most haunting thing to hear at a distance on a summer night from a green grass village green. Now, I also know that when the wave of jazz would come, and even though, to speak of Gershwin again, we don't really think of Gershwin as a jazz person in the modern sense, but having the overtone of the lore of jazz perhaps touching his music, like in a
Right.
Fitzgeraldian way. But if I'm not mistaken, and I may be, but I think one of his earliest song collaborations with his brother is the song called "The Real American Folk Song Is a Rag." Is that
Yes,
right?
Yes, that is the
Yes.
song. Yeah. With Ira, I think.
Yes.
Yeah, Ira Gershwin. These rags are so important, and they were historically important for the racial aspect too, because they didn't like the fact that these were so fetching. And to get back to your question about did Joplin think of them as to eventually be played in 1905, he writes the exquisite 5 themes, exquisite waltz called Bafina. And on the picture is a very beautiful black woman on the sheet music, and he's telling the pianist, this is to be in your recitals. This is a concert waltz. Of course, they are magnificent works of art.
And David, isn't even the remark about not playing too quickly, isn't that the preface to the School of Ragtime? Didn't he write a work of that name?
Yes.
And
yes.
of course, we imagine then he's alluding to the title, The School of Velocity, I would imagine, of Czerny.
Could have been. Oh, yes, he was, he had studied with a Czech Jewish teacher who was an immigrant, and who, they came out, they were everywhere in America, piano teachers galore. And this one knew his business and was a very favorite of Scott Joplin. And when he died, by the way, this is a white teacher, and Joplin, born of one of the parents was a slave. I think the mother was a free woman. He's born in 1868.
Okay.
Doesn't live long enough, my goodness, and never got to see Tremonisha, an opera that was his life.
Have you seen a production of that?
No, just the recording
Okay.
of that Gunther Schuller put together from. It's excellent, though. I mean, just such music. God, this to me, if anyone loves America, you have to hear these Joplin rags.
Yes.
As played, really in the style. You have to live them. Well, these are not rags. What a ridiculous name. I mean, it's there was poems, rag you, rag that, rag, everything was rag. It was so sensational that it was one of the first bestsellers in history, and McDowell and the great Harvard claque. Who composed this? This is not good. This is whorehouse music. Gottschalk's mother was already told to not, when they brought him to Paris as a little boy, don't play your whorehouse music for the Parisians.
Right.
He did, and they loved it.
And of course, Ives's first piano sonata is just riddled with. Mhm.
Oh, whoa! I love it. I love
a
that first
tremendous
sonata.
piece,
Oh,
yes.
you should practice that. You should learn both.
I
mean,
have
you
done
know,
the
I
first.
know you.
Yes, I did both. So
Yes. You did?
yeah, in graduate school. Hmm.
I'd love it to have you play the Ives first.
All right, let me get through the Bach and the
Oh,
list,
it's
and I'll do
just-
the Ives
Well,
first.
you're doing the Liszt ballade, aren't you?
Yes, I'm going to do those first.
Remember, this is the program called No Art,
Mm.
No Life. Jack Cole, novelist, pianist, raconteur, great friend of me, David Duvall. I'm on WQXR every Sunday at 10 o'clock in a program called Reflections from the Keyboard. I'm really happy to have this outlet to be able to talk on Substack. And did you get us on Spotify also?
Not yet. I pledge to do so.
Okay, so I really want everyone in the world that has any interest in the piano or in the many things that we talk about to listen. I want to see a real audience come through. You listen to such junk on
Yeah.
on everywhere. Why can't you listen to actual knowledge?
Agreed. Now, David, may I extend the question about the commodification of art into your other great forte, the plastic arts? I chanced, as I was glancing, I don't remember the location, it might have been the subway or on the street, and saw a woman with a wristband that was clearly a small fragmented print of A Starry Night. Let's imagine that mother's child has their first impression of that painting from that wristband. What do you make of that? Has that served?
It serves.
It does?
Don't you think so?
Well, I don't know. Can it cause the child to fail to make a distinction of where things, because you and I were talking last week about where it is the right thing to do things. And remember, it had to do with an essay that you had helped me finish off about attire on the concert platform. And we both concluded there's nothing wrong with seeing the female form in its glamour, but on the concert platform, especially with very revealing attire, it's not the place for that.
Right,
So
not at all.
does just a strip of a painting that one should have to labor to really study to serve the child whose first impression of that is just merely on a functional?
This is a tattoo on her wrist?
No, it was the watch band. It was printed on a watch band
Oh,
and probably bought.
No, that's no good. No. Because it's printed on a mechanical object that I don't like. The wristwatch, the watch. It's the clock itself I don't like. It makes me anxious.
Yes.
Makes me anxious. Did I do enough today? Or, you know, remember, if you are in the arts and let's say pianists, I mean, if you didn't practice today, my God, it stays with you.
It does. I was even telling you today, as I'm putting myself through a renaissance of bringing myself back to full power, I even relish the idea
Full
of
power, meaning that he's practicing a great deal.
right, and deciding to err on the side of me as pianist being primary right now, and feeling what it is to have one's hands restored, even in a non-pianistic way, meaning in engaging in tactile things like holding a cup or opening the top. I don't know that a person who never really engages with the piano, with a lifetime's tactile experience, I don't mean that my hands are stronger. I think we both concede that you don't really gain a calisthenic strength that is superior to a person who doesn't play, but you certainly gain a kind of engagement where everything seems more manageable. As well, going back to the idea of even the fear of a recital is so great that nothing else compares, so that if you ask me to address New York City right now and give some kind of edict, I would say, oh, give me the paper, I'll do it. But a piano recital is a whole other thing. Same thing with the engagement of objects after one knows what it's like to labor over finding the exact right fingering so that everything starts to seem to deserve exquisite choreography in the way we do it, even holding objects or touching someone else's hand. That should all be done with the right kind of choreography.
Yes, and you could also say that the great choreography in the world is notation.
Yes.
Think of let's say the way Liszt there's no piece, even if I didn't know it, if you put it in front of me, I would figure it out in no time that this is Liszt's
Yes.
figuration.
Yes, it is.
Only Liszt writes
Yes.
like that. Only Bach writes like that. Only Beethoven's, even in handwriting, I could tell you,
Yes.
in the autograph manuscript.
That's right.
Because this is one of the great inventions in history. And people, they say that, oh, they're music lovers. No, they're not music lovers. They listen. They listen. If they were music lovers, they would enhance it by buying the score and watching it.
Mm-hmm.
My goodness, what an adventure to hear the music played with a score, to see actually in movement
Yes.
the time cycle that is a time art of the greatest abstraction.
Yes.
Well, I don't trust myself to listen carefully without the score, because my mind will chatter about, I'm hungry, or I want to buy some soup later, or
Mm-hmm.
get an egg or something, or whatever the junk is, and no, please let me. I forgot my train of thought there.
Well, we were talking about how notation isn't merely a reduction of an oral abstraction into a mere notation on a page, because I would argue to our audience, you're absolutely right, because some of the most blissful experiences I've ever had in music is to hear, and Chopin comes to mind, where I'll hear something that seems so unique in the chromatic conception that I'll say, what on earth is that? I have to see what it is. And then when I see what the notation is, sometimes it's so astonishingly simple, but it's the where he put it. It's as if it's a landscape that I've known all my life, but the way he asks me to look at it is simply a spot I've never stood in before. And so something can seem like the most rarefied chord, but it's the way the lines approached something. So I would say that's the most rewarding thing of printed music sometimes. And we've talked about this too before. To learn it is comparatively simple. I mean, to a degree, the two clefs tell us what the notes are on the lines, and the rhythms maybe take a little longer, but it's an amazing amount of permutations submitted to a simple amount of rules. And yet it's so adequate to catching any subtlety.
I think it's the most miraculous thing in the world.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, do you really, when you hear this nocturne or waltz of Chopin that is being played in the movie, or
Mm-hmm.
God forbid in the commercial,
Right.
do you realize that had to come from the brain into the abstraction of notation, which becomes as individual as the composer themselves? It's a true signature.
Mm-hmm.
Chopin preludes. I don't have to know that they're oh my God, that's Chopin's notation. And of course, if you practice a lot, I can see those notes in front of me.
Yes.
But imagine the idea, the miracle. No other art has such a thing. We wouldn't know Beethoven if he just improvised his stuff. Oh, gee, it would be nice to have a recording. Beethoven was supposed to. He'd only be a textbook name in the history of music, because nobody has heard his music because it's lost. There's no notation.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know how hard it is to notate a piece? It's horrible.
Yes.
That's part of the creation.
Yes. And in fact, I think I've asked...
Am I screaming?
No, this is important stuff. It deserves a shout. And the shout that I've given to composers is I'm amazed that they're willing to give way the mark of their own hand to use programs like Finale, where you can type it like a word processor. Because I think you're right. I think even to a composer like Chopin, to a degree, his own idiom is maybe not necessarily discovered in the handwriting, but becomes a sort of library of resource in his consciousness, into where he can rely that he can discover those new things. If he would reduce it to a universal type, meaning typeset, I don't know that would happen. That's why I can never surrender the mark of even if it's chicken scratch when I first write something down. It's intimately connected with the first externalization of the innermost affect. And so I think children who are not taught cursive or to write or even to print are being dehumanized.
Oh my God, the idea that Someone prints my name?
Yes.
Are you joking?
Yes.
This is one of the great achievements in the world, but not the achievement of the abstraction of a Scriabin sonata.
Mm-hmm.
I say to myself as I look at this sonata, how did this man, who was, as they say, half insane, right?
Mm-hmm.
He wasn't insane, or he would never have been able to have the discipline
Yes.
to sit down and notate the sixth sonata or the tenth sonata. I mean,
Yes.
it's genius. Just the score.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the sound. The
Yes.
score is unbelievable, and you could start, if you hear it once, you could start hearing it too. How did this man have the genius? This is genius so far above what we understand as genius.
Well, David, that's one of the remarks of Ives in the essays before Sonata. My God, what does music have to do with sound?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I get this from you. It's one of the great utterances of consciousness. It's the innermost affect of the most extreme abstraction rendered into notation.
Yeah, this is where man's evolution, and I don't think AI could ever be able to try to create a sonata by Scriabin, except imitation of something. I don't have any idea of the level of genius of what a Scriabin, of a Rachmaninoff, of a Chopin, of a Beethoven is. We, as receptors, were so happy to hear it
Yes.
and study it and say, my goodness, this is the greatest thing in humanity. But it's much greater than all of that. Those words are silly compared to what the actual product is.
Agreed.
Not product, because product is a horrible word. He's a product of the teaching of so-and-so,
Right.
You can never be a product, or you're not good.
Now, if you were writing an essay and suddenly regretted having written that word, would you cross it out in favor, perhaps, this is just fun in terms of the invocation of words, with the word result?
With the what?
With the word result, that one might say that it's more elevated to say he was the result of this teaching as opposed to the product of this teaching. Would you feel more satisfied?
No, because result sounds a little bit tricky there. I'm not a result either.
Okay, what word might you put there?
Oh, he's a product of that teacher. I just would say, he studied possibly with prophets with Anton Rubinstein.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
But product is used a lot. I've used it before, but I'm not a product. No. Going back to the Starry Night on the woman. Well, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that was a fun thing she bought for herself. But what can that do except just like the posters at the Met? I don't want these people to hang up a poster of a Manet or Monet or Picasso.
Mm-hmm.
I want them to buy a painting by me. That's what it's for, not to raise the price of Starry Night. Do you know how many homes in the world have Starry Night?
Mm.
Many.
So that's a case.
And that's terrible because you are now raising the price. That poor man never sold it.
Right.
It's now about 200, 300, maybe $1 billion it could go for now because it's been one of the stalwart items in the Museum of Modern Art. So this lady, if the son looks, oh, mommy, what is that? Oh, that's the Starry Night. If she said, let me take you to the Museum of Modern Art and you can see it for yourself, the way Van Gogh, the painter, who died insane and so forth by suicide,
Mm-hmm.
That would be interesting, wouldn't it? That would work.
You mean if it had the result of compelling one to
see the original.
And I guess, well, that's the argument, however, I'll hear for film adaptations of great novels. But, however, I must say, as you've heard in private from me, the absolutely inestimable experience that I had of, let's take something like A Christmas Carol, which millions of people know through films, but very few do I find who know the richness of the language, because the language is reported by an omniscient narrator, which will have to vanish in a film. So I am forever grateful that, for example, there's a work that I only heard in its original conception before I saw any of the things, however creditable they may be. So that's what I'm thinking of when I see the wristband. That it seems like a misfortune because what it'll be attached to perhaps is a fond memory, principally maybe of where one sees it first, as opposed to having to feel that it had to be fought for to see it. Even if it's one of those terrible moments, because you say you don't like to wait in line at a gallery. But maybe sometimes when we wait in the line, those are the dues that we have to pay. And as I said in one of our other discussions, you make a lot in your books of regretting or resisting waiting online. Especially there's that one sequence in Evenings with Horowitz where you even tell a news reporter, how dare someone like a Horowitz make us have to do this?
Mm-hmm.
And why not play like every other pianist, play 2 or 3 times in New York so this doesn't create this hubbub on the street.
Absolutely.
So maybe I don't know the answer of how hard we should have to fight to get to the original of something, if perhaps we can at least be introduced to it obliquely, even if it's on the back of a newspaper and we see a fragment of an image.
Well, it's fine. My book, which you helped me so much on, photographing the the
Drawings and paintings,
yeah.
yes.
I mean, they're not my paintings and drawings. They're good. It's a pretty good color representation and so forth. And it's a way of distribution.
Well, that I don't reproach. I think that's a necessity. We could probably think of another analogy in that case, because you're not really commodifying the paintings or reducing.
What is a good definition of commodifying?
I would say reducing its. We started today with the idea of greatness, and I would say greatness right now. This is my definition. Might be the idea of someone with limitless talent that we feel that are going to serve humanity in the canon. That limitless talent that, however, isn't so great that it renders the artist unable to deal with the vicissitudes of this earthly bounds that we must deal with. Like a Bach, we also know that he was a father and a churchman. I find it gratifying that he wasn't also mad or unable to deal with practicalities, or that he was, as far as we know, cruel or dishonest. He seems all the greater because his talent didn't warp him. So I think the commodification of art warps the result, perhaps, of the great person back into some distortion of the talent, meaning that it's becoming abused, especially now, for the benefit of some other middleman, the person making the watch band. And then it becomes that dreadful territory of, what's the word that they use? Public domain. Where an artist doesn't even have the connection as a ghost or his family to the result of his labors. So what was our question about the commodification of art?
Yeah.
I would think that in a sense it's anything that finally makes it unclear to a young person, especially, that something can simply be bought without effort.
Yeah. Well, I would like to have been bought because yesterday a student in China emails me and says, and shows the photograph, your book, The Art of the Piano, congratulations, it's now published in China. I didn't know what to do, cry, scream.
Because that's
once again they stole my work.
So it's a pirated
They
translation.
pirated it,
yes.
And it's not with my knowledge, not with my permission, not with even the publisher's permission. They just did what they wanted, and they didn't buy it from me. They didn't take and don't take anyone seriously. It's horrible.
It is a universal problem. I know just from my own love of Dickens that that's something he struggled with all his life.
And what about the translation? No approval. No.
No.
I couldn't say to, let's say, a Chinese student who lives there, would you check?
Oh yeah.
Because there is one publisher that has produced to my two of my books and paid me for them, and even a royalty comes. It's the only time. The Golden Age has been stolen, the Menuhin stolen, the Horowitz, everything is stolen.
Mm-hmm.
It drives you crazy.
And I imagine probably the translation was produced simply by feeding the English into an artificial intelligence thing that popped out the translation within seconds. So you're right. We have no idea how fair the style from Chinese is a representation of your style.
Yeah.
The robot just made a quick assessment.
The art of the piano.
Yeah.
15 years of work.
May we ask something that perhaps will take your mind off the disappointment of that? That has, of course, a alphabetical structure. How did you approach that? Did you know that you were collecting a great volume of short prose pieces on things, or did you really ask yourself as you went through the alphabet, what should I put in within that framework? Because that's the way I read it. I'm conscious that it's alphabetical when I want to search it for things, and I go to it all the time.
Yeah, no, it really is a great book.
Mm-hmm.
The Art of the Piano.
Yes.
Get it on Amazon.
Mm-hmm.
God forbid if it's out of print. I don't know. I can't. I mean, there's so many Gonuffs out there, hooligans.
Yes, I bought more than one.
So many hooligans.
And there's always been a new copy that one can get. The paperback one, not the original.
Right. There's 3 editions of it. Get the 3rd edition.
Mm-hmm.
That's the latest. It started so many years before.
In fact, I always admired what you put in the preface, and I forget to whom you attribute this, that every subsequent edition of a book owes its improvements to its readership.
Yes.
And
yes.
That was a quote of someone, wasn't it?
Marianne Moore, the poet, I think.
Okay.
Is that her name? Yeah. Yeah, she would say every good quote should not die. You should be using it.
Mm-hmm.
What's wrong with giving an attribution to the quote? You know.
Oh, this is a whole other topic. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And translation is another topic. Of course, no one in Germany knew Italian. That Bach was, certainly almost illiterate in some ways, but Silbermann didn't know Italian, that's for sure. And Scipione's article on the first pianos, which is so interesting, it's published somewhere in my work.
Mm-hmm.
He had this translated, as I said before, and he found it in Hamburg.
Right.
Well, that's an extraordinary thing. Someone taking another language.
Yes.
And they really knew when they knew. When they were educated, they were educated.
Mm-hmm.
And he must have been absolutely delighted without a doubt. And then as we said, from that step, from the article, that's the first knowledge in the world of the pianoforte,
mm-hmm.
the Cristofori work, goes to Hamburg. The man, frustrated for so long, finds it
mm-hmm.
in a translation from the Italian. Because a translation in a certain way is like notation.
Mm.
The Scriabin had to have that complex music in his. How could he put it down?
Now, David, at the risk of
it really does amaze me, because I've tried to compose and did many little piano pieces till I was 14.
Well, Scriabin deserves all the praise you give him. Well, I don't want to veer away from the praise that I want to give to you, so our audience knows something. And that has to do with the book that we haven't discussed very much, which again is The Art of the Piano. And one of its grandeurs is it's a massive work in which you have synthesized a lifetime. So that also has a degree of intimacy, as if one is sharing your feelings about these things, and it cross-references itself, and it is completely free of the terrible, execrable burden of footnotes.
Oh.
And here's the book it reminded me of, a book that I hold maybe, in fact, Carlyle talked about reading The Decline and Fall of the Roman Empire. Now that's a heavily academic book, but he described it as forming an epoch in the history of one's mind. Now, for me, as an American, Shelby Foote's 3 volumes of the Civil War are just a massive, exquisite psychological synthesis, ruthlessly faithful, but there's not a single footnote in it. And it goes by as if one is sitting with this learned Buddha of a mind telling you this great thing that forms us as a country. And I've been reading parts of it aloud in the recent past to my mother and father. And it reminds me of nothing no less than what you have done in The Art of the Piano, which is the idea of thinking, well, here's a singular voice that has synthesized something not upon a commission, not upon a moment in time, but a lifetime of love. And that must be free of footnotes, because that would simply throw you out of the theater, so to speak, or break the fourth wall, or break the illusion. So those two works, I must say, stand by on the desk for me in terms of the...
I'm touched and I'm honored because I think I, tried very hard to. There's always a temptation to go to the footnote, and I never had it at all.
Well, I'm glad you didn't. In fact,
Ever.
David, I think I told you maybe a year or two ago, I had cause to buy one as a gift, and I just happened to look down the reviews on Amazon. And as you have mentioned about the book, sometimes people will ask you why this person's omitted, or you favor this person or another.
All the time. Sure.
Right, and part of the paragraphs, I thought, oh, this is just those regular remarks. But then the person put in his last remark, and yet this book shows marks of genius in terms of the synthesis. It's there.
Really?
Yes. Or that it's a result of a kind of genius. And it is. It shows...
I see. I never read anything about my work because
I almost
scares
had no
me.
chance to, or had no chance to avoid it, because I was simply going to press buy, and my eye locked in on it. It's one of those moments where you see something and you can't unsee it. And there it was. It's representative of a kind of genius. And he meant the synthesis
I
of
love
it.
that man.
Yeah, well, we don't know who it is, but...
Woman.
Yes.
Hopefully a
And
woman.
that's what that book is. It's a massive kind of synthesis. And you and I talk about that a lot, that a reader ultimately has to synthesize all their reading so that it becomes an absolutely undeniable singular work of the self, even if it's never regurgitated in one's own writing. That's what that book is, very much like it. And it stands in terms... And it's not narrative history like The Foot, but it still has its own kind of narrative in the sense as one follows it. And it violates, because of the way you have it, is almost as a quasi-reference work. It allows one to violate sequence, almost the way music works in retrograde, where you can suddenly find out that there's a melody embedded in a Bach fugue that's also being rendered backwards, so that I find myself reading that book out of order all the time.
Mm-hmm. Oh, of course. Or, you want to go to anyone, Alfred Brendel. What I remember about the writing...
What was the remark about Brendel?
I'll let you want to see what I said about Alfred
Yes,
Brendel.
yes, okay.
A pianist that always bothered me in some ways.
How so?
Well, also too famous for his very excellent musicianship.
Yeah.
But he doesn't move me, and I will tell the reader that it must be my fault. He's an important musician, but he doesn't get to me.
How do you account for his fame?
I don't know.
Okay,
Because it was so outstanding.
Mm-hmm.
There was something that Brendel had very, very important in his makeup. He loved the piano so, I think, and he loved playing it for people. He had never won a competition. He didn't even know that he would be a concert pianist. He went to the Busoni. He came fourth prize, but that fourth prize was good enough for him to move forward.
Mm-hmm.
And he did, and he had the very good luck early in his career, for he's obviously a very fine learner and had a big repertoire.
Mm-hmm.
And he had the chance to record all the Beethoven sonatas, which he did later in his career on Philips, but this was on Vox boxes, those things that were very popular, cheap, compared to the RCA or Columbia or whatever, and he got very good reviews for him, and there were not hundreds of performances of all the Beethoven sonatas 50 years ago when he did them, and that built his career.
Hmm.
He never missed a concert. I think year in and year out he played at Carnegie Hall. Many times I remember reading the reviews. They weren't great. It didn't stop him. He made a worldwide career, which is incredibly difficult in this century.
Hmm.
He was known in Japan or in Brazil or wherever in the United States, and so it became bigger and bigger. Someone told me that Leonard Shore was asked by Vox to do those sonatas,
Hmm.
and it was Brendel who after he said no, took that was asked, and
Okay.
he recorded that could have been the incredible break in his career.
Hmm.
Him, Beethoven, Germany,
Hmm.
whatever it was that made him the serious pianist, a fine mind. His articles, are serious. He loved the Liszt sonata, and
Hmm.
he did much for Liszt. But I never cared for his Schubert and so many other things. He had no, I think, gift for Chopin, but
I remember, in fact, in your interview, you asked him why it is absent in his.
he said you had to be a
I
specialist.
had to be a specialist, yes. And I also remember from the interview the remark that you also remark about it way back then in Reflections on the Keyboard, the idea of cancellation. And he remarks that a lot of his colleagues, if they have a cold or something like that, will cancel. But he feels it's always good to go out and discover what will happen.
Yes, I think that's a part of my thinking of him,
Yes.
and it's such an admirable thing.
Mhm.
Oh, please don't get me wrong. I mean, Brendel is a wonderful pianist, a wonderful artist.
Mhm.
I've heard a master class at Juilliard with him. Extremely interesting. There's. Let me go so far as to say, when Schnabel played Schubert,
Mhm.
it was a great lyric effusion in those sonatas, no matter what. When Brendel played Schubert, it sounded to me like a more or less a military march of Schubert.
I'm just going to play devil's advocate.
I don't understand my
Mhm.
dislike of him, really.
Could I play devil's advocate just for a second? This is not my own conviction. Could Brendel be a victim of the greater clarity of the recording process over Schnabel?
Could be. He was a very, very meticulous in the way his piano was regulated and tuned. They were
Mhm.
there literally with him there.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have a marvelously regulated piano, and
Mhm.
we don't ever,
Right.
you can't imagine how good you become.
I know what you're talking about. Now, David, on the subject of cancellations, is it in your book, Evenings with Horowitz, where that photograph of Oscar Levant and Horowitz are on the bench, and you even mentioned that you can get a psychological impression of who's the master there, because Horowitz is dominating the bench and Oscar Levant has a little edge of it. Is that funny remark, however, there about the process that Horowitz advises Levant on in terms of cancellation, where Levant remarks, because he was a real hypochondriac,
Oh,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
he would cancel things, and then he also told Horowitz, I think, that he would always know way ahead of time that the concert wasn't going to be for him and he would cancel, and that Horowitz said, "Oh no, always cancel at the last minute."
Yeah.
Yes, that's in your book.
Yeah,
I think.
yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes. He taught Levant how to cancel
How to
properly.
cancel. That always made me laugh.
That, of course, is Horowitz's impulsiveness
Yes,
talking.
uh-huh.
I mean, it just was bad weather, or something,
Yes, yeah.
or he's, some little thing bothered him, or
Mhm.
the Dover sole wasn't delicious the night before, or something like
Right.
that.
Mhm.
In a contract of Horowitz, I mean, he played so little, but the contract was so vast in what he wanted.
Yes.
In every detail of life, from the
Mhm.
hotel room, everything.
Mm.
Yeah, it's a real book. The craziness of the show of the concert pianist is a very, very,
Mm.
Richter had to have a special heat in the hall. Everything else,
Yes, you mentioned that,
that'd be
yes.
pushed out.
And do we think he really had memory problems in the end, since that he was looking at the score all the time, or do you think it was just an issue of?
I think that he
Fear.
was such a gigantic repertoire that he wanted to play things that he didn't No, or the minor Schubert sonatas or
Mhm.
this, and he put the music up.
Mm-hmm.
Probably read very well,
Mm-hmm.
and that was it. I don't think he had much interest any longer in concertos at the
Mhm.
end.
Okay.
He'd like to show up in a little town and play in some little.
Well, that always impressed me. Those
Yeah.
images of him with a lamp and a page turner playing almost anywhere.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't like the page turner. I've had in many lecture recitals of a page turner, and they make you too nervous.
Yes. Well, that's the conversation that we could spend maybe 90 minutes on.
Today we have, and I guess we have to stop. I mean, we can go on all day, and I
Sure.
hope that all the pianists in the
Mhm.
world or musicians
Mhm.
that may find what we say intriguing, interesting, boring, or whatever, let us know. I mean, please tell us how you feel about
Mhm.
No Art, No Life. I certainly, if I believe anything, it is that. It is the most biophilic thing you can do, life-giving thing,
Mhm.
to play great music, to listen to it, and why not make an elementary literacy in your world by learning the notes? It's not that hard, is it?
No, it isn't. I agree. I'm glad you said that because I contend that, and I'm glad other people have heard you say it.
Yeah. It would be a wonderful thing for you to go to the, you know, piano and look at the music and read it.
Yes.
I've had students struggle with the rote. They're not going to learn the notes, and they want to. I learned how to do this when I was teaching in a blind school,
Mm.
New York Institute for the Education of the Blind, and I learned the Braille, forgot it now,
Mhm.
but I taught the kids, the young people there. It was my first job before WNCN, and it was a great learning place
Mm.
to be with all of these blind kids. They were absolutely stunning,
Mm-hmm.
so interesting. I don't mean musical. That's just a myth. Oh, if you're blind, you're going to be musical.
I
Not at
understand,
all.
yes.
Not at all. You are or you're not. And so I had a piano student starting at 9 in the morning. I would come to the Bronx and on subway, and got there, and I began my work. And I saw, and they weren't happy with the way I was doing this because they wanted everyone to read Braille. They
Mm.
weren't as much. Well, some of these kids had such great ears, though.
Mm-hmm.
And I am not going to teach them the way they want, and I will get away with this.
Mm-hmm.
And I did, and I taught them by rote.
You mean not teach them the way the institution wanted you
Yeah,
to teach
then
them?
every institution is out of their
Yes.
mind. Don't you
Yeah.
know that?
Mm-hmm.
Or as Henry Miller would say, you know that,
Oh, right.
you know.
Yes. And doesn't
Every institutional crosses the boundary when they become bad, and when we become bad, that means I can't teach them the way I know as a teacher they will have the most pleasure. So here I am in this institution for, at that time it was called the gifted line. Now you wouldn't have a title like that.
Yeah.
It's now just the, without the gifted in it, and God forbid you didn't think you were gifted.
Mm.
And I would go with my great patience, and this boy loved Schubert, loved Kempf.
Hmm.
Yeah, very
So he was very
13.
particular about who he wanted to hear his Schubert come from.
So we learned the Schubert E flat impromptu,
Yes.
note by note. All these other students from the other teachers, and
Yes.
it was really quite a little conservatory, no doubt.
Mhm.
Even organ was taught, and I would wait, and this kid played it so well. By the time I was done with him,
Mm.
he would have never in his life had the joy. He'd be playing those little things, but feeling it. Nothing would
Yes.
happen.
Right.
So when they had their little class recital at the end of the year, my students played real music.
Mm-hmm.
Bach musette and this
Mhm.
and that, and he played his impromptu, and they were stunned.
Mm.
And then, of course, they said, "How did you do that?" I said, "I'm afraid that was rote because I could not let them not play the
Yes.
talented ones what they wanted."
And were you reproached then when you revealed that?
Yes.
Well, you know what, Mr.
You have to. You really have to. At least part of it has to be the rail.
Yeah.
I don't listen to anyone. So I the next year was out of there because not because I didn't like it, certainly not because they paid me well, but
Mm-hmm.
but then I got a job as music director of WNCN as a very young man,
Mm-hmm.
and there was a part of me that really liked doing that, teaching that.
Mm.
But I needed to go forward now. This was a
I
more
understand.
interesting, for me. But wherever I go, I'm not necessarily in sync
Mm-hmm.
with the institution's desires for me.
Well, I think Mr. Emerson says that every institution is but the lengthened shadow of one man. And so perhaps there was some shadow of one man to whom you would never have had any sympathy, and so that was just augmented by having to be confined in that building.
Hmm.
So,
It's very difficult to understand that in a way. I don't know why. I've always had trouble with Emerson.
oh, the Emerson phrase?
Yeah. Yeah. The shadow of.
The lengthened shadow of one man is what the institution is. Like we imagine that the church is but the lengthened shadow of Christ, and that he had no notion that he would cast this
Oh, that's
shadow
that's,
of
of
mechanism.
Of course.
Yes, that's all he
Yeah.
meant. Yes.
Yeah. As Ivan Tillich said, in the deschooling of America,
Mm-hmm.
which we must do. We must save that money.
Mm-hmm.
We must devise a different kind of school system, which is
Mhm.
not going to destroy the children. We've talked about a little last
Yes.
week.
Mhm.
This is a very important thing. These schools, be it universities, there's nothing to gain.
Mm.
All learning. I don't like that word autodidactic because all learning is from what you are inside, and you will only learn what you want to, and you're going to be starved at a school because you're not going to get what you need or want. How are we going to figure that out? The budget for the school is only less than the military budget. This is astounding. The
Mhm.
idea of the thousands of schools in this country,
Mm.
where you send your child and you have to be afraid that the handgun will kill them.
Mm.
I can't bear the idea of school. Every day that I
Mhm.
was
Mm-hmm.
from high school,
Yes.
my great years was total rebellion
Mm-hmm.
in the what they call the middle school now. It's called junior high then, and I just decided I will do what I want. I never went to class. I never this. Nothing ever happened to me. No one noticed.
Oh, that's wonderful. It brings us to this moment then. I'm glad you were hooky bound.
Yeah, I would leave. I
Yes.
would leave in the middle of school to go to Cleveland Stadium to sell peanuts and popcorn and Cracker Jack.
Yes.
Make some money.
We should talk about that more. You've told me about that in private. I would love to have you
And-
memorialize that a bit.
Okay.
Yes. Okay.
Fantastic,
Thank you.
fantastic.
Thank you,
What
David.
a great pleasure talking to you.
The pleasure and honor is mine, David.
No,
So,
there's no honor. The honor is mine. And there's nothing I have found in the and this is
Mhm.
we are genuflecting. We adore talking to each other.
Mhm.
Come again.
Yes.
Come again. This is David Duvall.
Mhm.
Thank you for listening.
And I'm Jack Cole, and happy trails until we meet again.
Happy trails.
Yes.
Roy Rogers, right?
Roy Rogers, exactly.
Or was it Gene Autry?
No, that's definitely Roy Rogers.
Roy
who sang
Rogers.
Happy
Oh
Trails.
yes, with his Palomino.
That's right. Trigger.
Trigger. I
Okay.
hope all the people in the world get to pet Trigger and that beautiful mane.
Yes. All right. Till next time.
Take care, my friends.
Okay.